Giving free legal advice to those in need is an idea as old as our hallowed profession. It is a duty and a privilege to offer a helping hand to our fellow Coloradans. It means we can make history that can start a new chapter in someone's life.
The role pro bono plays in the history of the legal profession is the core, the essence of the profession. That is the service to the community.
It's been continued in many ways by great lawyers all throughout history, from Clarence Darrow to Abraham Lincoln. We have a tradition of people representing and making history with regard to important causes.
Well, pro bono work is important in the career of an attorney because it allows a young attorney in particular to sometimes take on cases which they wouldn't get to otherwise, learn new areas of the law, also to have direct contact with clients, and to finally, and probably most importantly, to feel like they're actually helping someone, an individual person, and which sometimes they don't get to have until much later in their career.
Really, the cases that have shaped our laws and our history and some of the most fundamental rights that we all have now came from lawyers doing it pro bono.
When I think of pro bono leaders in history, I think of former U.S. Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis, who is known as the People's Attorney, and he was one of the first attorneys who incorporated public service work systematically into his practice of law.
Make time constraints history.
Well, if you're worried about time constraints, really the solution to that is that the firm needs itself to recognize that every hour spent on behalf of a client, whether they can pay or not, deserves an equal share of your time and attention to that case. There is no client less valuable than any other.
In a small town practice, you do a little of everything. Whatever comes in the door, you have to be able to do to stay alive, to be able to make a living. And you would think that pro bono would drag away from that. We find almost that it's just the opposite, that in doing pro bono, which doesn't take a lot of time, it doesn't take a lot of time away from the regular practice. It doesn't take a lot of time from billable hours. It is just an additional component of the practice that we do.
Make the commitment to serve your community.
There are lots of resources to rely on. In fact, I think from a hands-down standpoint, from a time standpoint, if you feel that there's a time issue, the organizations that line you up with those clients are also willing to help you line up with someone else who can, one, be mentored, or two, could share the workload if it's that substantial.
In terms of venturing into a new practice area, I know that can be nerve-wracking, but I sort of liken it to when you first started practicing. You weren't familiar with the area of law that you started practicing in, and you jumped in and you took the time to learn, and then you felt confidence.
There are lots of mentors out there that do specialize in those areas of law like divorce and bankruptcy that are committed to pro bono.
Make yourself a part of Colorado's pro bono network.
There are plenty of opportunities, plenty of organizations, the Access to Justice Commission, Metro Volunteer Lawyers, Colorado Legal Services.
Almost every judicial district has something called an Access to Justice Committee. It's an arm of the Access to Justice Commission. And that committee is charged with making sure that indigent folk in that district have better access to justice. And part of that is finding pro bono attorneys when they really need one.
Only you can make the history in the courtroom that can change someone's life.
We take an oath never to refuse the cause of the defenseless or the oppressed. We take that oath and it's a reminder that we are licensed by, in our case, the Colorado Supreme Court.
When you take that oath, you really, I think, promise that you're going to keep doing this pro bono work.
Make history. Only you can.
I mean, it sounds weird, but it's really, really cool to see someone who had an issue, who you may have only dealt with, for a day or half a day or whatever, and they come out and their lives have changed.
It's just incredibly rewarding to be able to hug that person you helped, to know to know that there will be people out there, children, in a divorce or a custody situation, that someday will come back and know that their lives were changed because you were there to help their mom or their dad or whoever it was.
As a Chief Justice, I think that lawyers have a greater responsibility, a social responsibility to the larger community to serve in many different ways.
People shine when they step up and have to learn a new field. So here's the incentive. Help somebody who can't help themselves by learning something new. That's what we're all about, isn't it?
You can find opportunities to help and learn more at makehistorycolorado.org.